Hi, I'm Chad, and this is See Stuff Do Stuff. Welcome to my basement. This is where I tinker on old bikes and 3D print stuff, and just generally fix things around the house. This is my hobby zone, if you will. The big shop, I haven't been in it very much lately. It's the holidays. I don't have any new welding videos to share with you right now. So what I'm doing is I've talked to my friend Adam from a YouTube channel called Clutch Smoke. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist anymore. He interviewed me back in 2020 and agreed to let me use that footage to put up on my YouTube channel now. So here's an interview from Adam of me about all the things I do back then and some cool and interesting stories of my hobbies, and I'm gonna throw some extra B-roll on top of it to kind of give you a better idea of some of the bicycles and trucks and things that he's talking about. So enjoy.
Alright, now you can clap if you want. Everybody loves clapping.
I am Chad Copeland, and I am from Valparaiso, Indiana. I'm a doer of things. I'm a really handy guy that just kind of has taken a path in life that has led me to doing a little bit of everything, and I really enjoy having like the world at my hands. I can build things from scratch. I can fix cars. I can make sculpture. I can make art. The only thing I can't do is make music.
Really?
Yep, I have no musical inclination at all. I do a lot of like sculptural things, woodworking, furniture building, and then the nerdier side of me gets into RC airplanes and RC crawler trucks. The hot rod guy in me likes tinkering on old trucks. I have a 62 Ford F100 and an 86 Ford Ranger that are projects. Neither one of them are in a great state of repair at the moment, but you know, that's what the winter time's for. I love antique and vintage bicycles. I have 13 bikes in my collection right now. The earliest bike I currently own is an 1899. It's a wood wheel bicycle. It's a wall hanger. It's not able to be ridden. The earliest riding bicycle I have is a 1931 Colson. It was made in Ira, Ohio. It's a really cool bike. I've got it hot rodded out. It's got thick slicks and stuff on it. I ride the crap out of that bike. And then my other kind of notable bikes are a 53 Schwinn Jaguar. It's just a really classic 50s style bicycle that has all the original trim on it. I have a 46 Roadmaster. It's like green, white, and red. It's a really, really cool bike. It's got a working headlight. It's a skip tooth bike. It was December of 46, so it was like right after World War II. That one's really neat. And then I have a 57 JC Higgins that I just cruise on. It's like the most comfortable riding bike that I know. So skip tooth bikes are like, if you think of a normal chainring on a bicycle, it's got like a tooth like pretty consistently around it. If you look at a skip tooth chainring, it's like there's a tooth and then there's a gap and then there's a tooth and there's a gap. They call it inch pitch. It's a special type of chain. As far as I know, and like somebody can fact check me on this, the reason that existed was because of the industrial readiness of chains when bicycles were early in their existence. Rather than reinvent the wheel, they were like, oh, we have these chains that are used in industry. Let's just use that chain to drive our bicycles. And it was this skip tooth style chain that was used, I think, in agriculture. But don't hold me to that. I've just always been the kind of guy that, like, even when I was a little kid, would like find something that was interesting, like take it apart and like see what the insides were doing, you know? And then with the moderate amount of success, I was able to put them back together. Like it never always went as planned, I think, but that kind of lended my early childhood to Legos and things of that nature. So just always tinkering and playing with mechanical things and figuring out how they work and if I can put them back together. And that inspired me later in life to get into bicycles and furniture and all these other like real physical things. And just I really enjoy taking something that's either old and crusty or broken and fixing it and making it better, or reinventing it and putting it into something new, like cutting up an old bicycle and making it into a tall bike, or some crazy contraption that, can be considered art, if you will. As far as like bicycles go, I really, really like the 31 Colson. I like that bicycle because it's made in a small town in Ohio. There's a whole slew of collectors that gravitate towards them because they're kind of a rarity. So like probably the 31 Colson, that's all original. That one's really cool. I also even have like a 1930s flashlight that's paired with that bicycle. And back in the day, you could buy this little gizmo that would hold your flashlight on the front of your bicycle, and you could use it as a headlight. And so I've got a 30s era Homer flashlight that is mounted to the 31 Colson right now. So it's kind of a really unique and interesting thing. That's like the most recent thing that I've kind of like, that's the most recent rabbit hole I've gone down. So my actual love for antiques and vintage stuff is not necessarily a story that I can really pin down. I do have a really great story about my father and growing up, going out to the airport and being around all of these great guys that were into old airplanes and had hangars full of vintage motorcycles and cars and all this stuff. And I think just being a little kid and, being raised by a single father that took me out to his place of employment all the time and just like turned me loose to like hang out with what he called the old timers. And it was just these old retired guys that just hung around the airport all the time. And they all had stories that they wanted to share with me, and they would take me on rides in airplanes and stuff. Like, I mean, there's a photograph of me when I'm like 7 or 8 years old, like in the cockpit of a small airplane being taken up for a ride. And I started flying when I was 12 years old with this guy named Dave Stewart. He's since passed away, but just really, really critical guys in my youth that were excited about airplanes and all this stuff. And as I kind of got a little bit older and started doing research and learning about things, I found out that the Wright brothers were bicycle builders and had a bicycle shop and their own brand of bicycle before they invented the airplane. And that, I don't know, that just like stuck with me. I mean, I've got a tattoo on my back on one side of my shoulder, or one shoulder is the Wright brothers' first flight at Kitty Hawk. It's a really, really iconic image. And then on the other shoulder, I have the penny farthing high wheeler bicycle tattooed. And it's just this connection for me of this like mechanical world that legitimately means like the sky is the limit. Like, it's just these average guys that were into bicycles that decided this isn't good enough. We're going to invent the airplane instead. And it's just, so that whole realm has just always like influenced like my love for things that are of antiquity, I think. As a young guy, probably right around that like 10, 11-year-old age, started getting restless, getting a little tired of being taken out to the airport with my father all the time, like wanting to like kind of strike out on my own. My dad gave me permission to cross the highway on my bicycle, and then which gave me access to downtown Valparaiso. Downtown Valparaiso. Well, I had this, it was like 1994. I had this Mongoose Sniper BMX bicycle. Back then, Mongoose was a good thing. Nowadays, it's sold at Walmart and junk. But all of a sudden, my world was just like opened up to me, and I would get on this BMX bicycle, single speed BMX bike, and I would ride up the Linwood Hill and down the Lincoln Way Hill and all around town, all the way up to the North Side Dairy Queen. There was a cute girl that worked there. They would give me a free ice cream cone once in a while. You know, and just like I had this route. I'd go see my friends and all this stuff, and the only rule was back at home by dark. And so I had this like freedom, and it was all because of the bicycle when I was a young guy. And I think that really influenced me. Later on in life, after I got my driver's license, I got this inkling. I was like, I'm going to drive that route. Because, I mean, it was the same route every single day when I would get off of the school bus, get on my bicycle, ride to town, and I'd hit the same places all the time. And so I drove it in my truck when I was, 16 years old. And I was riding like 14 miles a day on my bicycle. I was like, no wonder why I was a stick kid, like I was just like the tiniest little kid in the world. That's because I was just riding the like crap out of that bicycle. So that's probably like that's probably like the seat of all of my like excitement about bicycles, is like the fact that they freed me from the little realm that was my backyard, let Valparaiso become my like playground and be able to go out and experience the world and be free and be be me. So the 62 F100 story. Okay, so living in Medford, Oregon. Actually, I was living in Phoenix, Oregon, which is the town that burned down in those crazy forest fires out in Oregon this past year, which is sad because the house I was living in is gone, which is also a good story because had I not chosen to move home when I did, I would have lost everything I owned if I would have stayed another year out there. So good timing to peace out of Oregon. So anyways, I'm living in Phoenix, Oregon, and I've got this Ford Ranger that is giving me all sorts of trouble, and so I'm like on the hunt for a new truck, and I don't like new stuff. So I'm cruising the Craigslist, and this guy has got a 62 F100 for sale. The listing is like pathetic, like one really, really grainy, very blurry shot of it, and broken English explaining what the truck is, and I'm like, screw it, like I'm gonna go look at this thing. So I go out there, it's a farm, it's on the outskirts of town, and knock on the door, and he's actually just this really interesting looking Mexican guy answers the door. And I'm like, I'm here to see the truck. He's like, oh, okay, cool, follow me. And so I follow him up to the back, and there's this old white 62 F100 pickup truck sitting underneath of a pine tree. And I mean, it is buried in the dirt. Like, it's been sitting there for years. And I asked him, like, oh man, how long has it been here? And he's like, oh, I think like 10 years, blah, 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 blah. I was like, what's wrong with it? He's like, I don't know, it just quit running one day, gonna leave it. I just decided to leave it here. I just need money, it needs to go away. And so I'm looking at this thing, pop the hood. I'm like, man, I can't really find anything like significantly wrong with it. The rabbits have like eaten the spark plug wires and stuff out of it. The fuel line's been chewed off of it. And so I was like, all right, well, here's the deal. I'll give you X amount of dollars for it. But you got to give me a couple days to mess with it and see if I can get it running. And he's like, all right, cool, do your thing. So I don't pay him for it. I just go get some parts. I bought a fuel pump for it, spark plug wires, new plugs, a little like 2-gallon gas can, and some fuel line. And I go out there and I'm wrenching around on this thing. Oh, and a battery. And sure as shit, like 45 minutes of messing around with it, I get this thing to fire. Doesn't run worth a crap, but I get it to fire. And now it's like, okay, I gotta dig it out of this hole that it sunk itself into on these rotten ass tires. So I borrowed a buddy's air compressor and brought it out there, and like I would go to the house, plug it in, pump the air compressor off, take it out there, pump the air in the tires, go back to the house, plug the air compressor back in again. It was this whole ordeal. All the time, this little Mexican guy's just like sitting on his porch, like laughing at me, I think, Well, lo and behold, I get this thing dug out, and I drive around the front of his house, driving this old truck. Brakes barely work. It's barely running, but I got it going. It is covered in pine tar. And when I get it up to the house to pay the guy, I'm like, what's in the bed of this thing? And he's like, oh, it's got a half a load of manure in it because it broke with manure in it. So it's got horse shit in the back of it. And I'm just like, whatever, man. Here's your money. Like, thanks. Like,
and it was still there, right?
Yeah.
You said you lifted up a board and it was still filled.
Yeah, like, no. So like after I got it home and I cleaned all the what it looked like dirt, but it was actually horse shit out of the bed of it. Somebody had thrown a piece of plywood down, like as the bed, because the old bed had rotted away. But I pulled that piece of plywood out, and all the original bed strips and everything are underneath of it. So I rebuilt the bed, and I got some pine boards and ran them through my router and stuff, and made like a new bed floor for it. And I got pictures on my Instagram for that. It's a pretty cool little project. But I've never done anything to it. I've let the patina be. I did a tune-up on it. I put a different intake on it. I updated it to MSD ignition. I rewired it so that the turn signals and the brake lights and the heater and the windshield wipers and all that sort of stuff worked again. But otherwise, like, I just drive it. And it was my daily driver for 2 years, getting 6 miles to the gallon, because somebody at some point in time prior to the farmer that I bought it off of had swapped a 351 Cleveland out of a 73 Mustang Mach 1 into it. So it's got a 351 Cleveland and an FMX 3-speed cast iron transmission. The thing is awesome at doing burnouts, but like it's not good at anything else. And 6 miles to the gallon is a testament to how bad it is at everything it does. Because I'm sure there are like supercharged, like 1,000 horsepower vehicles out there that get better gas mileage than 6 miles to the gallon. So
the average at that time was 8.
Yeah, 8.
So when it's 6, you know it's bad.
And they never fixed the wiring, right?
That's one of my winter projects. Probably not this winter, but maybe next winter, is to go through and completely rewire that truck. And I actually think I want to do a cab off resto on it and put a Crown Vic front suspension and stuff on that truck eventually.
All right, that concludes the video by Adam Mitchell from Clutch Smoke. I hope you guys enjoyed that insight into my world and what it is that makes me tick, and all the fun collectible stuff like bicycles I have. So make sure you like and subscribe and do the commenting stuff, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye! Y'all got to see a younger version of me.